What's going on, guys? My name's Theoatrix, and today I'm going through just about every lure that exists in old school. This video focuses only on lures, and I made a video a week or so ago about all of the scams. So if you want to learn about what scams to avoid, you can check out the link to that video down below. The main difference between scams and lures is that lures involve baiting the victim with a complicated story or strategy. Scams, on the other hand, are very short and simple, and usually only involve trading. The purpose of this video is to make you aware of all of these lures to avoid them happening to you. I realized that by showing all of these, some of the malicious players out there will go and try them for themselves. So if you know any new players or someone likely to get lured, send them a link to this video to avoid it happening to them. A quick heads up, a new shipment of Vorkath mousepads is now on the way to the warehouse. Last time, the Vorkath mousepads completely sold out in the pre-ordering stage, before they even became fully available on the store. So if you missed out last time, now's your chance. Let's get into it. I'm starting with a lure that's so deceptive that even large YouTubers out there have been lured this way, including a friend and Sears. I call this lure the new items lure, and there's two ways that it can happen. The first is if the victim is using an item in the wilderness that is worth a lot more than the Grand Exchange listed value. This particular lure made a group of players over 28 bill when Revenants were first released. When they were released, the new weapons were trading for over 100 mil, whereas the GE price was only 10. The lurers would find a player with one of the Revenant weapons and give them 4 items that had a higher price than the Grand Exchange listing value. Because your items kept on death are determined by the Grand Exchange price, when the victim receives these 4 items, it protected them over the high value Revenant weapons. So as soon as the victim takes the items, they're piled and killed. The other version of this lure is when a new item comes to the game, but instead this time, it's trading for far below its Grand Exchange value. So for example, this could be the Cabbage Round Shield that started off as 5 mil on the Grand Exchange, but in reality, it was a pretty worthless item. So in this case, the lurer would drop 4 Cabbage Round Shields, and if the victim had an item worth, let's say 4 mil, all of these shields would protect over the item, even though they're actually worth far less. Overall, this lure is pretty hard to avoid, but the best advice I can give is to be very cautious when new items are released to the game if you're going into the wilderness. Next, I'd like to talk about a range of lures that take place on PvP worlds. First is the Pharaoh's Scepter lure. A lurer will come up to a player that's wearing high value gear and tell the victim that they're handing out free Pharaoh's outfits, and then encourage them to try it on. Within the outfit, there is the Pharaoh's Scepter, and the left click option for the scepter is to teleport you to Jal Savra. There's no warning given when you click on the scepter, and you'll instantly teleport into a PvP area where there's someone waiting to teleblock and dragon claw you. A similar lure can be done with teleport tablets. A lurer will stand at the Grand Exchange or a PvP safe zone and say that they're buying Falador teleport tablets for well over their market value. When they get a trade and open the trade window, they'll decline after a second or two in hopes that the victim left clicks on the teleport as they try to add it to the trade, and instead of trading over the tablet, they end up breaking it and teleporting to Falador. The next one is probably the most common lure that you'll see on PvP worlds, and that is the animation stalling lure. A lurer will stand in a safe zone, like the respawn point in Lumbridge, and begin taunting you, saying that you aren't as rich as them, asking you to prove to them that you are actually richer. This is in hopes that the victim withdraws their cash stack and valuable items and trades the lurer. The lurer will be animation stalling, where their character visually is standing in the safe zone, but in reality, their character is standing out in the PvP area. Upon trading the lurer, the victim's character runs out and gets frozen and killed by the lurer's friend. After a game update 2 months ago, on high risk worlds, you're now given a new green skull as soon as you enter the wilderness. This green skull means that you lose every single item on death, and on high risk worlds, you can't even use protect item. This update opened doors to a range of lures. An example is a player might be training prayer at the Wilderness Chaos altar, and they're using an item like the Din's Bulwark for defense. A lurer might come along and say that there's a clan offering protection at the altar on world 365, which is the high risk world. Then the victim will hop over to this world and instantly get one of these skulls. From there, they're piled and killed and lose their Din's Bulwark. A similar lure can happen on bounty hunter worlds. When you go into the wilderness on a bounty world, you're automatically given a skull. So with that, the same thing can be done. A lurer will get you to hop to a bounty world. If you have protected unskulled items, then since you get the skull, you'll lose them. This next one is a pretty sneaky one. Someone will come up to you at the jewel arena while you're staking, and they'll tell you that they recently got cleaned and want to give you the remaining items that they have. So the person that tells you they got cleaned tells you to meet them at the Grand Exchange so that they can sell their remaining items and give you the coins. When you're at the GE, the lurer will tell you to hop to a PvP world because one of their friends is currently PKing and has some borrowed items. So they want to go get those items back before they give them to you. After a few minutes, the lurer will come and trade you and will put some coins in the trade window. They'll start telling you a random story about staking, and the story seems very genuine. After their story, which takes a few minutes, they'll eventually give over the coins, and after that, they hope that you want to go back to the jewel arena, which is where they found you. Their hopes is that you forget it's a PvP world, which means you teleport straight into the dangerous area with your cash stack. The next ones I'm talking about are skull tricking, and skull tricks aren't exactly a lure, but since it involves deception and strategy, I consider it pretty fitting for this video. There's 4 types of skull tricks. The first is where the tricker will freeze you, then walk underneath you mid-fight, and then change accounts to one with a very similar name and identical gear in hopes that you attack the new account and get a skull. The second is where they freeze you and then walk out of view where you can't even see them on the minimap. Once they're out of view, they run back into view on a new account. The third is when the skull tricker fake attacks you. This can be done with an item that gives off an animation that looks like they're attacking you. The most common one for this is the hunting knife obtained from Halloween events. When you right click and use the slash option, it looks like you're attacking with it. The final type of skull trick is where players pretend to be an NPC, and these ones really can't be considered lures at all since it all comes down to the victim not paying enough attention while they're in the wilderness. These types of skull tricks have been done by a variety of YouTubers, pioneered by Sir Pugger. He's done a range of these skull tricks where he pretends to be an object or an NPC, and Framed has done a number of successful ones where he pretends to be an Earth Warrior. The next one is called the Candle Anti-Lure Lure. A lurer will come up to you asking if you want some free money, and they want you to bring valuable items, and the more you bring, the more you get. Regardless of if you say yes or no, another player will come up to you and PM you saying, "Hey, I anti-lured this guy. Check out this video on YouTube to see how I did it." Before I explain that video, I'll explain the lure so it makes more sense. So the lurer will take you to the Temple of Ikov, to the staircase at the end of the tunnel. They give you a candle and a tinderbox and tell you to go down the stairs with them. They take you to the end of the room and say if you drop your items here, then come back upstairs. They'll give you 100 mil in exchange for the candle. Without a candle in this room, you can't go further than a few tiles in, which means you can't go far enough into the room to grab your items back. So the video that the anti-lurer links to you is a video explaining how you can steal the money, but it's actually a fake video. What it says is that instead of dropping the items at the end of the room, the video tells you to drop it by the staircase so that you can reach the items even if you don't have the candle. Well, if you drop your items at the staircase, then trade over the candle, when you go back down the stairs, you enter a different instance of the room, and the items that you dropped previously won't be there. So this video that they're linking to you is completely fake, and the person that claims to help you is actually in on the lure. The next one is where a player is advertising that they're doing a drop party. And there's a few ways that people lure out of drop parties. The first is one that's been around for so many years, and that is once the lurer has enough people following them, they will say, hey, let's go do this at the Falador party room. I'm going to teleport everyone there, so turn on your accept aid. Instead of telling people to Falador, they'll do tele group ice plateau, in hopes that you don't read the location and teleport straight into the wilderness to your death. Another version of this lure is where the person actually does do a small drop party, maybe around 500k in items to gain trust. After the drop party, the person that dropped them starts saying that they're doubling money. A few of the lurer's friends will say how thankful they are to have their money doubled, and claiming that it's all legit. And then a number of victims will try double their money, where the lurer will scam them. Another lure that's been around forever, and I'm sure almost every single player knows it, is the 10k dropping lure. This one is so obviously a lure, and I don't think people even try this one anymore, but since I'm showing as many as I can in this video, I'll quickly show it. A player will come up to you and show you a huge cash stack, and they'll tell the victim they're going to drop it for them to collect. The lurer will take them to the wilderness ditch and drop 10k in the wilderness behind a tree, and since any amount of cash over 10k looks exactly the same on the ground, it seems like they've dropped their whole cash stack. The final category of lures are very easy to avoid since they're so obviously lures, and these are item dropping lures. All of these involve where the lurer will ask you to drop one of your valuables on the floor in exchange for some sort of reward, and then after you get the reward, you can pick up your item. There's a range of ways that a lurer will try to do this, and I'll quickly brush over them. First is the clan instance lure. A player will ask you to join their clan chat and ask you to meet them at the Corporal Beast lair. They will then ask you to go into the clan chat's Corporal Beast room by using the portal. Then once you're inside, they ask for you to drop one of your valuables. Once you do, they kick you from their clan chat, which in turn kicks you from the Corporal Beast lair. Another time this lure can occur is with wound toys. A lurer will take you to the jewel arena and take you really far from the bank in the upstairs viewing area. Once you're there, they'll ask you to drop your item and then trade you over a full inventory of wound toys. They'll tell you to release all of the toys and pick up your item, and then you'll receive a reward. Once you get the toys, you'll find that you can't release them at the jewel arena, so you're then forced to run back to the bank to deposit them in order to have space to pick up your item, which will take too long, and the item will pop up for the lurer. So how can you avoid all of these lures that I've just shown you? Firstly, never trust anything in the game that seems too good to be true. They're almost always a scam or a lure. Second, don't try to anti-scam anyone, and if someone randomly messages you saying that they're on your side and you can anti-lure, they're in on the lure as well. Third, never drop any valuable items on the ground in any scenario. And lastly, be very cautious when you're in the wilderness. There's a range of lures that are hard to see, particularly the new item lure and the high risk world and bounty world lure. So that's everything I have for you today. I'm hoping that enough people see this video to ruin the business of these lurers for good. If you know a new player or someone likely to get lured, be sure to share this video to them. I also recommend checking out the video that I made about all of the scams in old school. If you're new to the game, it's definitely something that you need to watch. I've finally found a new shipping provider able to ship my mouse pads to Europe and the United Kingdom. I know a lot of you out there have been waiting for European shipping to return, so now's your chance. There's 4 designs in stock now: the Fire Cape, Wilderness, Farming, and the Vorkath mousepad. For the next 24 hours, you can get 10% off any mousepad by using the coupon code LURE. So that's it for today's video. If you're new around here, be sure to subscribe for more old school RuneScape content. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.